people of the universe. Tonight will be the night that the skies will open and spray forth the divine hand with pointed finger and say, everybody, you're not just a duck. You're human. You are human. Go forth. Go forth and thrash.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
Welcome to Heat Death of the Universe, a podcast for listening, not to be read, not to be eaten, not to be caressed. Ears only, people. An FDA-approved hangover cure. By the people, for the people. That's what this is. We're gonna talk about some stuff. Would you agree we're gonna talk about some stuff?
We're gonna talk about our retirement plans.
My retirement.
Do you have a retirement plan?
Sort of.
Really?
Yeah. I want to open like guest house in a country with a very cheap cost of living. I was looking at the Philippines, Thailand.
I just want to take survivalist courses and learn how to live in the woods, because I assume that everyone's going to be living in the woods by the time I'm retirement age.
Yeah, I just realized I guess the Philippines could maybe be a bad idea if the oceans are rising dramatically, but because my fantasy version is that I could just like live my days out on a beach in some like nice climate in a low cost of living country. I was looking at Vietnam too.
That sounds like a lot of people's fantasies.
Well, of course, I'm not saying I'm super unique, but I do live in Asia, so it's like more doable, I guess, or feels more doable than it would have felt if I was still in America. And
That's true.
I've looked at like real estate and stuff a few years ago, and I don't know. It seems
you're giving a way more realistic answer to this than I expected when I asked you.
Yeah.
You're making me feel bad about my actual lack of like any plans or foresight about my future.
Well, I mean, it's not much of a plan. Like you said, it's like probably what a lot of people imagine. God, there's somebody yelling outside of my fucking window. Shut
See, I
up.
really thought that was Kwan.
No, she's not here.
You should just shout out at the window. Hey, is this New York or something?
I did say shut up. My kitchen window is open. They probably heard me. There's like an empty...
Hajima!
Yeah, I'll give them some fucking shitty Korean. Oh my god, the fucking bitching sound is so loud. They're right next to my window.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Gaisaki.
They look like city workers, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. There's like basically an empty lot next to my house. It's like now
Yeah, I've noticed it.
overgrown with like plants coming out of the concrete.
I had considered sitting my bicycle there one day instead of dragging it into your house.
It's kind of impossible to get in there, man. There's a big fence in front of it.
I thought it was just yellow caution tape.
Oh,
Maybe
no,
it is a fence.
no.
Maybe that's why I didn't do it.
No. That's a different.
That's a different empty
I
lot.
have multiple empty lots surrounding my house. No, like
I mean,
like if you're in my kitchen looking out the big window to the left, that's why I like this house. One of the reasons is I don't have any super close neighbors, so I don't have to worry about making noise.
Being too loud.
Even though I don't really make a lot of noise in Corona times. I don't have parties or anything.
I've finally become the neighbor that complains when my neighbors make noise. I used to be the other one, the one where my neighbors complain about the noise I make. And now I've became an old man of solitude and quietness that shakes his fist at the sounds that the world creates and thinks, why must we be cursed with ears?
Man who thinks he's old shakes fist at cloud.
Alright, is this the Onion or something?
Okay. We got immediately off track. I did, rather.
That's good. We were going to start this episode by talking about everyone's favorite president, I think.
Yeah. So 9/11 happened. What?
Just a few days ago.
5 days ago.
5 days ago.
Yeah.
Uneventful.
Oh, hey, speaking of that, timestamp September 16th, 2021, 10:46 a.m.
There you go.
I'm too old for this shit. P.S. It's Thursday.
You can always tell a lot about a person who thinks Lethal Weapon is a better movie than Die Hard.
Yeah, that person is an idiot. I think. I don't know. I haven't seen... I saw Lethal Weapon only once. I've seen Die Hard like a million times. And I do like Shane Black. Fuck. On topic, Josh. George W. Bush is a piece of shit.
George W. Bush also likes Shane Black. I don't know if that's true. It's very possible.
I mean, he's made some very popular movies. It is possible. Although, I don't know. I honestly could see Shane Black being too, like, intellectual for George W. Bush, going over his head.
I don't know.
He's
perhaps.
This is one of the things we kind of disagree about. I think George W. Bush is actually stupid. I don't think it's all an act.
I have a hard time believing that about any of those people.
I mean, stupid like in like book smarts.
I still have a hard time believing that about any of those people.
I don't know why it's so hard to believe George W. Bush is an idiot fail son. Like, that's what he is. He just failed at everything until he got like just accidentally kind of pushed to the presidency. I don't think he's like an ambitious, like conniving person. That's not to say
But he's done
That's not to say that I think he's like off the hook. He's still guilty as fuck, but I think he is kind of a dullard. He is an idiot.
I feel like he's done a couple of things that require some book smarts. I'm not saying he's the smartest person in the world, but I think that people have a tendency to underestimate people like Bush.
I think
he wants people to think that he is not very smart, but I think he's probably smarter than a lot of people give him credit for. I don't know why I'm defending Bush.
You're not really. I mean,
wasn't-
you're just saying what you think about his personality, but like, I don't know. I guess we'll never know. But I mean, I know, of course, like he puts on like a persona of like gee shucks, I'm just a simple cowboy. Of course, that's bullshit. He's born in Connecticut. Like he's from the fucking aristocracy. But like, I still think he's
best private.
I still think he's kind of a moron. I like, okay, like all those dumb, like the Bushisms, remember those books, Bushisms? Like that collected all the quotes of like the dumb shit that he said. There's like 2 or 3 of volumes of those books. I don't think he like purposely said those things. I think he's like not great at speaking. He's not like super cultured, whatever, super like aware of, I don't know, like, in any case,
I guess my defense of President Bush. Oh God, I just said President Bush. I hate referring to anyone as president.
I'll never refer to people as president when they're ex-president.
Culture demands it. The reason I think he's probably somewhat book smart or maybe decent at math, he went to like the best schools growing up. Sure, I know he was like a C average student,
because he's rich. I mean, you don't have to be smart to go to the best schools when your dad is the head of the CIA.
But if you have access to all of those, you get a really good education. Also, he is a licensed pilot, which takes a bit of brains, for better or worse. And it's documented, like, he has a lot of flight hours.
Okay.
So I just refuse to believe that he's as dumb as people put him at. He's done things that show that he's not. But
being able to,
and I think that the narrative.
I'm sorry. Go on.
Okay. No, I just think the narrative that he was the dumbest president, he made blunders during his speech, was just something that he wanted people to believe. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was not trying to come across as like an intellectual like Obama. I mean, that was part of his political program was to be like the everyman. I get that, but I don't know.
Now Biden does that.
Yeah, Biden. I mean, Biden's always kind of been like that too. Middle class Joe, old middle class Joe. That's why he wrote that his whole thing about riding the Amtrak every day, whatever. Although that, like, honestly, riding the Amtrak every day is like a luxury compared to what like actual working class people have to do to get back and forth from their job. People aren't commuting every day between like DC and fucking Delaware, or I don't even know where the fuck he was taking the Amtrak to and from every day, but. Anyway, I'm having a hard time staying on topic right now. But the topic is George W. Bush, the possible moron. Possible, emphasis on possible. He gave a speech on 9/11. And all of the like living ex-presidents were there except for Trump. Trump, of course, was doing color commentary for a fucking boxing match on like a yacht or something. Not a yacht, like some giant cruise ship or something. I think it was. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But he was like just talking about how he would knock out Biden in a fight, which was pretty funny. And
so like if two presidents fight, do like before they fight, do their Secret Service agents have to fight each other first in like protecting them?
Yeah. So there's like multiple boxing matches going on.
And like,
actually,
does the current president get priority on better Secret Service agents?
I believe that
because you get a detail assigned for your like entire like retirement, right?
I think Trump turned it down. Trump has private security. I remember reading about that like a while ago.
Yeah, I think I read about that too.
We talked about it on the podcast, actually. Maybe.
Private security is probably scarier than normal people.
I think his whole thing was that he was just like, he was just
I don't need this shit.
He was just being
I'm
a
rich.
contrarian, maybe, or something like. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe he really just like didn't trust the Secret Service. I'm not sure. But the whole point about this dumb speech was that, or the thing I found most interesting and irritating was that all of these liberals were like fucking salivating and fucking coming in their pants over this speech. All because George W. Bush, like, without saying directly, he implied a connection between the January 6th act that shook the nation and 9/11.
I mean, I thought that the reason people liked it was because he made a plea for unity, which is what everyone fucking loves, it seems. It's just this plea of, let's meet in the middle.
He did do that, but like by way of saying the January 6th, the MAGA chuds are bad, is basically what he said in so many words. And they're as bad as 9/11.
Gosh, that's not what I focused on at all. I missed that entirely, and I watched it twice.
I sent you an article titled George W. Bush perfectly tied 9/11 to the January 6th attack on CNN.
I mean, mostly what I heard about was just like him listing all the ways Americans used to be unified, and now we're not.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was just stupid platitudes. But
I lived it. I wasn't unified back then. I was pissed. I was pissed that we were going to the Middle East.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, what the fuck is he talking about? Unified? Like under his presidency? Fuck off. God damn it. I can't believe George W. Bush is like, has become a hero to these people.
Don't worry. Trump will become a hero to those people. I guarantee. If he lives 10 years, he will become a hero.
I mean, everyone. I think we've like placed
I've said
bets
it
on
multiple times.
Yeah. I was saying,
because I
agree with you, and I'm saying I wonder how much time will need to pass before that happens. 10 years seems like a good guess, but in this like completely fucked culture, I could see it happening even sooner than that somehow. People will be like,
yeah, I could see that too.
Because, okay, let's see. With Bush, like, his rehabilitation really started, like, basically as soon as Trump came into office, more or less. So that was 8 years after he left the White House. Just 8 years.
Yeah, I would even say it goes as far as, like, it really started during the 2016 elections.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, I meant, like, before Trump came into office, but like right before Trump came into office. With Trump, I think it could be sooner. Like there's even been like little inklings, like him getting booed off that stage in Alabama for telling people to get vaccinated. I think if he decides not to run again, which he probably will run again, if he decides not to run again, I could see people liking him a lot faster because he might go on like a PR thing where he like ask people to do things like get vaccinated. But I don't know. I guarantee people like him. People always like past presidents. There's never been a truly hated past president, even if they were hated in office, as far as I know. Well, any worth hating. Not even Nixon is hated.
Yeah,
I guess he is.
I remember when Nixon died. I remember watching the funeral footage when I was a kid. I don't know why I was watching that. I remember like watching it like alone. It wasn't even like my parents were watching it, and I was just a bystander. And of course, I didn't really understand anything about it at the time. But yeah, all the past presidents and whatnot, world leaders.
You were 11 or so.
I was 11.
You didn't understand everything when you were 11? Yeah, he died in 1994.
I felt in my memory I was younger, but I guess I wasn't.
It's okay. I kind of block like basically age 5 to 12 is all one big memory block. at this point in my life.
I mean, I did know that Nixon was like a bad president. I knew he had like
I'm not even sure about that anymore.
A bad rep. I'm positive. I am. What do you mean?
He did some. He
Just
did
because
like some good things with the EPA and the national parks, man.
He founded the he started the EPA, yeah, but he also bombed Cambodia. Like it doesn't really balance out. The EPA.
When you are when you are the leader of the most colonialist country on the planet, conquerors, a leader of conquerors, how can you not use your weapons? You're right, though. Maybe we shouldn't use them.
Nixon was a nasty, spiteful little man. Despite starting the EPA, the useless EPA, by the way, look at where it's gotten us. Like, who cares? The EPA sucks. It doesn't. It's fucking poisoned, just like everything else in the goddamn government.
But you think we shouldn't have any of it?
It'd be nice.
Tear it all down.
It'd be nice.
Burn it down.
It'd be nice if the EPA actually did something. It actually worked, but it clearly has not worked because we're on the edge of climate collapse. So yeah, I know. Like the looking back at Nixon is like, wow, by our standards today, he was downright a lefty or like a liberal, but. Yeah, I mean, the Overton window is always shifting, so I don't know. By like, I mean, look, the fucking people like George W. Bush now. Liberals like George W. Bush. So, like, back to that a little bit. Like, there were all these like tweets and whatnot from like Keith Olbermann and like all of the sort of like liberal intelligentsia, like. Wow, what an amazing speech. What a great man. Even though I disagree with him on some things, what a fantastic plea for unity. What a way to like, but again, what they really were focused on was the connection drawn between January 6th and 9/11. And when January 6th happened and we talked about it on the podcast, I remember telling you that some people were comparing it to 9/11 already. And like,
I remember thinking that was ridiculous, and I still
remember
do.
You saying, "What? Really?"
I forget that it happens. Like, I've noticed this like trend of some people think it's like one of the most important events ever, and I'm just like, "Oh yeah." Like almost every time you bring it up, I know you don't actually, you think it's important in a different way than probably those people. For some reason to me, it's just like such a unmemorable, like unimportant event. Why are people making it so important? Nothing happened.
Because it's the deplorables, man. It's the people they don't want anything to do with. And it's a symbol of Trump still. So like, and people are still fucking like completely shook up by the Trump presidency. And when Biden continues to keep fucking up and killing people, at home and abroad, they can look back at January 6th as well, at least that type of shit isn't happening on his watch. That was the thing is that I forget exactly the line George W. Bush said, but he was like, our national symbols being like desecrated or whatever. I don't know. It
did feel weird watching that on TV the day it was happening, but I didn't expect it to become such a milestone event, I guess. Like, I remember, like, the day that January 6th was happening, of course, I was following the news about it. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. But it wasn't like...
You're the one who told me about it. I remember.
It didn't have, like... I could have seen it going, like, much differently and having, like, way more gravity for me, but the events that actually did happen, I don't feel like, I don't know. There's just like, yeah.
No, it was a riot. It was a riot that happened to be inside one of our like symbols of an institution in America. But
I was more mad about it because I felt like it was handled more gently than like most of the Black Lives Matter protests that happened the same year.
It was completely handled more gently because the cops were like, oh, well, these are our people. And then they were shocked when their people started beating them. And the other thing is people will say, oh, people died on that day. Yeah. Most of them basically died from heart attacks and shit. Like the guy who supposedly shocked his balls with a taser, he just had a heart attack because he's an old fat piece of shit. And that's how they were I think 4 people died. I mean, granted, that one woman was shot by the Capitol Police. But she was also climbing through the window, screaming about wanting to kill Mike Pence. Not saying that it's justified, but it's not like she was just standing around chanting for civil rights. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've talked about January 6th before. It's just
So
what's funny though, just within the lore of our podcast is I remember saying yeah, man, people are already calling it January 1/6, 9/11, and you were like, no way. I totally understood your position because that's how I felt too. But I was just I guess I was just paying a little more attention to Twitter or whatever. But I was yeah, man, people are calling this people are literally comparing this to 9/11.
Here's the thing. I'm not so dense that now I know people are doing that, but it still seems so unimportant to me.
I agree 100%. I just, it is a thing that we're going to just have to accept the fact that January 6th is going to be a term now. As much as I wanted to resist it,
it's not going to outlast 9/11. But I think I found I was looking at the transcript of Bush's speech. Bush's speech, he never really brings up January 6th, but I think I see why people compared it.
He definitely implies it. He talks about
See, when I listened to it, that's not what I got out of it. I thought, and this is naively from me, now that I think more about it, I thought he was talking about the fact that America has so many mass shooters, and when he brings up domestic terrorism, he was talking more about mass shootings.
Absolutely not.
But why would he? why would he talk about George W. Bush supporter of the NRA? See, I put into his words the nice meaning to the platitudes he was giving me that I would want them to mean. Other people put 1/6 there. I put mass shootings there. But he makes a comparison of there being little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home. But in their disdain for pluralism, in their disregard for human life, in their determination to defile national symbols,
see,
they are children of the same foul spirit.
That's the part that makes it obviously about January 6th, the defile national symbols.
How's it not obviously about the people who tear down Civil War era monuments?
Those aren't
South.
Those are regional. Those are regional symbols, though. That's not a national symbol. Robert E. Lee is not a national symbol in most people's minds.
My grandfather would be mad at you for saying such sacrilege.
Fuck your grandpa.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, he was a nice man, but a bit misguided, like many old men.
What's funny though is even people I'm not even coming at that from a South versus North perspective, because a lot of Northerners stupidly think Robert E. Lee was anti-slavery for no reason. I don't know where they get that idea. I think he was slightly.
I don't even have that idea.
He was slightly less pro-slavery than a lot of people at the time, but he was still pro-slavery. I mean, he was the premier general of the goddamn Confederacy, and still Northerners who are I'm a Civil War buff. I like reading books about the Civil War and watching Ken Burns documentaries. they think he was like a good man, like at his core or whatever. But we're getting way off topic. I mean, we should move on to the next thing.
We weren't that off topic. I was just saying the thing that is a symbol of 1/6, I think, is very vague, and it was probably written to be vague like that, to apply many meanings.
I think that it was written to be like liberals are going to hear what they want to hear, and conservatives are going to hear what they want to hear. Although I have, what I should have looked into and didn't is like what the conservative reaction to the Bush speech was. That's actually the more interesting thing now that I think about it. But in any case, we can at least comment on how liberals were all like getting weak in the knees over this speech by this possible idiot. That's what I'm going to call George W. Bush from now on. Possible idiot.
The possible idiot. They're all possible idiots.
Yeah. I mean, well, no, I mean, Obama to me is like clearly like book smart in some way, but he's also kind of a pretender. Like whenever he loves to put out those like those lists or whatever of like what he's listening to, what he's reading and stuff, and he always picks like the most fucking normie, middle of the road shit that he thinks is like so deep. But anyway,
like Empire of Pain. I liked that book though.
Did he choose Empire of Pain?
He did.
All that shit was happening on his watch. What the fuck? Fuck that guy.
That doesn't mean he can't like it.
Yes, it does. That's our thing. That's not his thing. Fuck Obama. God damn it. What an asshole. And yeah, again, he was in the crowd, like looking so serious. Like he might have even had like a single tear roll down his cheek, like watching George W. Bush like stumble his way through a speech. Anyway, I don't know. Fuck Bush. Fuck 9/11. Fuck the Iraq War. Fuck all these people who think that he's okay now, especially. I don't know. I don't. Should I be so shocked? I guess maybe I shouldn't, but like it's still shocking to me that any of these liberals that used to call him like the great Satan now like love him. What has changed? Nothing has changed. He is not a different person.
People forget, man.
How could you forget? We just supposedly ended the war that he started. Like it's just mind-boggling to me. But anyway, now I'm repeating myself and I'm saying things that everybody knows. Everybody who would ever listen to this knows.
I guess just no one actually cares about anything except for themselves.
Yeah, I'll take that as an explanation. But speaking of nobody caring about each other, at least, the evictions have all really taken off in the United States. They're on a steep upward trajectory these days.
Why?
Well, because Biden reminded the Supreme Court that they could just overturn the eviction moratorium.
I mean, here's the thing. It's not that many, Josh. I know exactly how many evictions have been filed in 6 states.
How many?
6 states in 31 cities since March 2020.
That's, I mean, okay. I mean, we can look at even more recently than that, but how many?
510,453. No, there's this tracking website for all the evictions and most of the evictions in America, what they're allowed to track, but evictionlab.org is actually kind of an interesting site to like follow this stuff on. They track evictions like weekly.
I mean, there are like over 100% increases in multiple states right now in evictions. It says right here, the U.S. Census Bureau's weekly Household Pulse survey for the week ending August 26th, which is when the Supreme Court, that's the day the Supreme Court overturned the moratorium, found that 3 million let's just say 3.5 million, roughly, people are facing the likelihood of eviction in the next 2 months. And it's actually probably quite a bit more than that. I mean, if you take into account like just the house, like pure households, I guess like the population, the net population of households that will be evicted, it's again, the numbers I remember seeing not that long ago were 16 million people.
It is too bad that there's nothing to help these people. It'd be awesome if like there were government programs that were easily accessible.
Oh man, wouldn't it be cool if there was like an allotted $47 billion for emergency rent?
Oh, that's crazy. They would never allot that much money to a crisis like this. I mean, how would they distribute it?
Well, I have a story for you. The federal government did allocate that much money for emergency rent assistance, ERA, ERA, like months and months and months and months ago. Like this happened on Trump's watch. Not that Trump did it. I actually peek behind the curtain of me not researching enough. I don't remember exactly when it was put into effect, but it was at least, let's just generously say it was like at least as far back as December. I think it was before that, but that's a long time. Okay, what is it now?
It is a long time.
It's September, so yeah, that would be like 10 months ago. They've had 10 months. The states have had, let's say 10 months. I think it's probably more, but they've had 10 months to distribute this stuff on like a state and local level, and so far only 11% of the money has been actually distributed to landlords and renters. And the way that it's supposed to work is that they're supposed to offer the money to landlords who have like a certain amount of back rent due to them, and the landlords can reject the money for some weird, stupid, shitty reason, which is...
Well, I mean, the landlords can, but there's even like some states where the landlord and the tenants are allowed to apply. And in those states, it seems that a lot of landlords are being refused, much like the tenants, almost like the states don't want to distribute the money. And looking at those, it seems that a lot of it's struggling to actually get the applications approved or processed, which is something that's actually really common in these sorts of aid distribution systems that we do in the U.S. Like look at the big thing that happened or is still happening with educators in America who were promised to like have their student loans paid off if they taught for 5 years, and then like something like 80% of them were told, oh no, you filled your applications out wrong, so now you don't qualify. I imagine the same thing is happening with this.
Yeah, and also they've made the application process just really like cumbersome, and like you can only use like I found this thing on NPR, this interview, this transcript about it, and they're talking about how you can only use like a laptop, but not everybody has a fucking laptop. Some people, if they have anything at all, they have a smartphone, like, and probably not the best smartphone, and one that doesn't allow them to like upload all the documentation they need to do. And apparently the uploads are really slow on like the website. And when you apply, you like go through this like long application, and then if you don't have all of the documents with you at the moment, there's no way to save the application, so you just have to start over. And so yeah, it's like purposely made to be difficult, obviously. And I mean that's what you're saying. I'm just adding a little more detail, I guess.
It's okay though. Jen Psaki, she gave a good reason for why it's not being distributed as quickly as you would like.
Do tell. Drop that Psaki bomb. I'm curious. I didn't hear about this.
So, she simply said when asked by reporters The money was designed to be distributed over 3 years when asked about the billions of unspent
3
dollars.
years? Fuck you. Fuck you, Pisaki. Oh my God. 3 years? That's insane.
Then, more people can be evicted and more people can qualify, and they have at least 3 years to start filling out those application forms.
Okay, and
this is
something we talked about this already, but I'm just going to drive the point home, I guess, that there is...
do you want to know...
Well, hang on. There is like
ahead.
20... I think it's about $21 billion in back rent is like the most like recent accurate seeming estimate about how much back rent there is in America right now. And
what if the government just paid it?
Yeah.
Instead of doing this program, they just, paid everyone's rent.
The federal government could like very easily, but that's the thing is means testing.
People would bitch.
The means testing is what completely slows it down. And I'm gonna go.
And
I'm gonna
people
go
would
even
bitch.
further than that. They do the means testing because they're trying to be fair. No, they do means testing like this because they don't want to give the money out. And I'm burying the lead on this. The real development that we have not yet talked about on our podcast with this is that there's a deadline for the states to use those funds, and it's coming up in 14 days from now. September 30th. If a state has not used 65% of the money they've received from the federal government, the Treasury Department can just take all the remaining funds back and use them for whatever they want, which I can guarantee you is not going to be for rental assistance. And this is exactly what I fucking guessed, like cynically guessed. Like I almost thought like, oh, I'm being overly cynical by thinking they're going to like literally take this money back. And now I find out that's exactly what they're planning to do. So like some states are scrambling. At least I know I know New York is. They're trying really hard to like distribute that 65% at minimum because they don't want to lose the rest of the money. But other states, like you said, like you were guessing about your home state, and like I can guarantee about other, I don't want to, again, I'm not trying to pin this on the South. I'm sure there are northern states that are doing the same thing. I just don't know.
Oh, there are.
But the states that I've seen are like, so like Mississippi has used less than 5% of their funds, and like they don't plan on using any more. Like it's their like ideological position of like, we don't give out, handouts. So like
handouts, man.
So I think a lot of states are going to just end up putting that money right back into the Treasury Department and let people just get fucked en masse. Like,
so like one of the ways that a lot of states are using it so that it doesn't go away is they're contracting third-party vendors to handle it, which just seems like a nightmare to me too, because it seems like a giant waste of money. Which probably translates to a lot of states because if there is a deadline on the money and having to give it back, they can contract third party people to handle it, and then probably let some of that money go into other pockets as well, as money does as it starts to change hands.
It's just it seems like such a scam by the federal government. Like, why couldn't they just send out checks to people? Like, and like, I'm not saying it went perfectly, and I understand that it's a different kind of situation, but also they did basically get the stimulus checks out to everybody. I mean, the majority of people, let's say. I think some people still have like never received their checks, but why couldn't they do something on par with that? Instead, they're like, here you go, states. Now you figure it out. And then the states are like you're saying, contracting out other like private business entities to do it for them, which is just, I mean, it's just like an absurd bureaucratic nightmare.
And some states' computer systems and some states malfunction, preventing renters from applying. Others are requiring tenants to provide more documentation than required by federal law, which experts have said created unnecessary hurdles to get the money out the door. Yada, yada, yada.
It's just
Some people really hate the ideal of handing out tax money to people. Handing out tax money to corporations or the military, that's fine, but handing it out to an individual, what if a single mother got that?
Well, as our friend Stephen Grumbine has said, and as modern monetary theory says, it's not tax money. Your taxes don't pay for shit. Okay? It's just money created out of fucking thin air on a computer. That's all. God damn it, I wish people could understand that. I really do think that, like, MMT, like, I get why people are so almost like religiously devoted to MMT as like the solution to all our problems, because it really would solve so many problems if people understood how, like, the basics of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also, yeah, I was going to say, but if the people don't believe in it, then it could cause this problem where people don't. Currency, especially when you're issuing your own currency, only has as much value as people believe it has. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you made people not believe in it suddenly, the currency, then, I don't know, it can become worthless. I don't think it will, though.
Well, it's not about belief. It's about, I mean, like, what creates the value of the money is real, tangible resources that can back it up. And resources doesn't just mean like natural resources, but it also means labor. So, like, I guess it
also means cultural assets.
Yeah, it's everything that could possibly, like, generate, like, value, I guess. Anyway, we don't need to get into a whole MMT thing, but I would say
here's the one problem. I agree with you. I think MMT could fix all this. But if the government really embraced it and decided that they were going to do all these programs with MMT, and it's the same government, suddenly we'd have all of these well-funded, excellent programs that required a ton of paperwork and were very hard to get accepted to, much like we have now.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean,
I guess I'm saying the bureaucracy might not go away, because we also need a culture shift on that.
I guess what I'm getting at about all of this bureaucratic nightmare stuff, this, to use a very overused term, this Kafka-esque situation, is I think it's done completely on purpose, and it's done for the sake of not wanting to give out the money, not wanting to fix the problem, because the problem is financially beneficial to a lot of bad actors. And that's the bottom line, I think. I think it's totally intentionally a nefarious thing. And
it also allows, speaking of bad actors, I usually hate landlords, but it also allows much bigger corporations like Blackwater, who's buying up tons of properties in America to rent out, to buy out all these small-time landlords.
Oh, yeah.
To make sure that
Blackwater has huge influence, and like half of Joe Biden's fucking staff is like former or like currently still somehow invested in Blackwater. And yeah, it's not in their interest to see all the soon to be evicted people suddenly get like a life preserver. Like they don't want that. Like, evict the motherfuckers, and we'll swoop in and just buy out the property for like pennies on the dollar.
Because the landlords also aren't making money, so they have to sell out their property.
Right, exactly.
Which means more renters, because the landlords become renters.
Right.
And more money funnels to the top.
I imagine that this scenario has probably happened where a landlord has sold their property for like pennies on the dollar to Blackwater, and then ends up becoming the renter of that very property and paying like twice as much as they were charging the previous tenant.
It's possible.
Yeah. Well, so that's really fucked up. I'm gonna pay attention and see what happens by September 30th. I'll guess right now, officially on the air, that the vast majority of states are gonna like lose their funding, because I don't think a single state has spent 65% of the funding yet. But we should probably move on to what we planned on being our main meat of the show. You want to add something? Sorry.
Oh no, I want to talk about that, but I'm back.
Yo.
I want to make a quick aside too. Just one small correction, because I made a mistake. I said Blackwater a minute ago, and I meant to say Black Rock.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing than Blackwater.
Good point.
But
they're easily
they're
conflated.
both evil.
Yeah, because they're both terrible. I don't know if I could say one is even worse than the other, honestly. I mean, they're both ruining lives. I mean, I guess Blackwater is actually just flat out murdering people. But anyway, everyone is beautiful and no one is horny is the title of this article that we'd like to talk about and read at least some of. I think it's very well written. I'd like to read some chunks of it and talk about it. It's written by a woman named Raquel S. Benedict. She's described as the most dangerous woman in speculative fiction. Woman after my own heart. Yeah. She calls sci-fi and fantasy speculative fiction. Very, very pretentious, and I like that.
I love sci-fi and fantasy, and think it is the most underrated form of literature. But I hate most literature.
Underrated by who? It sells like more than any like literary fiction does.
By academics.
By academics, that's true. I think I knew that's what you meant, but I wanted
by
to
the
be
people
snarky.
Who want to look down their nose at me for enjoying something that is actually readable and has ideals and is not just navel gazing.
Just wait till you hear my recommendation today. It's good.
Navel gazing?
It's going to be pretty... I wouldn't call it that, but it probably does qualify. Anyway, subheader. Modern action and superhero films fetishize the body even as they desexualize it. Let's just go through this opening paragraph here. I like this. When Paul Verhoeven adapted Starship Troopers in the late 90s, did he know he was predicting the future? The endless desert war, the ubiquity of military propaganda, a cheerful face shouting victory as more and more bodies pile up? But the scene that left perhaps the greatest impact on the minds of 90s kids, and the scene that anticipated our current cinematic age the best, does not feature bugs or guns. It is, of course, the shower scene, in which our heroic servicemen and women enjoy a communal grooming ritual. On the surface, it's idyllic, racial harmony, gender equality, unity behind a common goal, and firm, perky asses and tits. And then the characters speak. The topic of conversation? Military service, of course. One joined for the sake of her political career. Another joined in the hopes of receiving her breeding license. Another talks about how badly he wants to kill the enemy. No one looks at each other. No one flirts. A room full of beautiful bare bodies, and everyone is only horny for war.
Sounds like a perfect world.
You wanna live in the dystopian fascist Verhoeven world.
Your dystopian is someone else's utopia.
Is it yours?
I don't know. Everyone gets a mythical space enemy that they can unite behind, so there's peace, and they have a common goal, which is to beat up mythical space enemy. So everyone learns to live in harmony and not sexualize each other. This sounds great.
What do they? Isn't there some big reveal? And I haven't seen that movie for a while, but isn't there like a big reveal of like about the insect creatures?
Oh, they're good.
Yeah, they're actually they're on the defensive, right? They're not like invading. Yes. Like, so the humans are just actually like imperializing like the bug creatures like lands.
Very, very classic reveal. But yeah, I love that movie.
It's great. I mean, what as long as you know that it's a I guess like a satire or whatever. See, I as a kid when that came out, I didn't know that. I just assumed it was like what it looked like, which was like a almost like B level like sci-fi movie. But yeah, after realizing like after seeing more Verhoeven films and like getting a sense of his whole thing, yeah, it is a great movie.
I saw it in theaters.
Very subversive.
And I don't know what I thought about it as a kid. I liked it though.
Yeah, I mean there was nudity and killing and futurism. There's that future sport. I don't remember. It was the name of that sport. It was like soccer and football like mixed together or something.
It wasn't. It was not basketball, but it could have been.
It could have been
Quidditch. That was its name. Quidditch.
Don't lie to me, Harry Potter.
So, but this article is not really about Starship Troopers. It's more about the desexualization. It's desexualization? That's the word. That's not really a word, is it?
Sure it is.
And also body standards and the rise or the fall of a state. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to read a little bit more, too. In the early 2000s, there was a brief period where actresses pretended that their thinness was natural, almost accidental. Skinny celebrities confessed their love of burgers and fries in magazines. Models undergoing profile interviews engaged in public consumption of pasta. Leading ladies joked about how little they exercised and how much they hated it. It was all bullshit. No one looks like that without calorie restriction. We knew it then and we know it now. This part really, like, I really identified with. I just remembered that phenomenon so well and how annoying it was. And I feel like it almost still goes on, but maybe not. I mean, her next paragraph here is saying that it doesn't.
I think people are way more open about suffering for fitness now.
Yeah. But you must also, like I do, clearly remember that trend, right? Of like...
Oh, of course I do.
Yeah, like every supermodel being like, actually, I love fast food, and oh, I'm so lazy. You know, like,
I actually think it's a big trend in Korea still. Or maybe it wasn't a trend.
To lie about eating a lot?
Yeah. Look at how skinny some of the mukbang stars are. Or if you watch, like, I've watched a lot of K-dramas, partly because I'm trying to immerse myself more in Korean lately, and also I like a lot of them. But the way skinny Korean people eat just, like, bowl after bowl after bowl of rice, it's impossible. Like, even talking to, like, Yane, it's impossible. But there's this like love of food in the media, and also just like refusal to acknowledgement that maybe they're doing a weird sort of harm to like the people watching and thinking and making them think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the listener who doesn't know, like mukbang is like the YouTube stars.
Everyone knows what that is now.
Do they? Do they know it by that word?
I think so.
Okay,
like most of my American friends know what it is.
I'm guessing,
but yes, it's eating on YouTube.
I'm guessing some people don't know, because I barely know, and I live in Korea. Yeah, it's just people who performatively eat like disgusting amounts of food on YouTube, and for some reason, people like to watch it. I will never watch that shit because it makes me feel sick.
Twitch on Twitch, and I guess YouTube too, but like YouTube's like usually where it gets put after it was live streamed. Like in Korea, it's probably like live streamed on like A-Free TV. Is that what it's called? A-Free TV? I think that's like their streaming thing. And Twitch, a lot of it's streamed on Twitch, then later put to YouTube. But I've watched some of it. I've considered doing it because I like eating. Though some of the people who do it, I shouldn't say their names, but some of the people in mukbang, you watch them eat these ridiculous things, and then you see like
some of them.
Not every mukbang person is really skinny.
Some of them are fat, is what I was going to say. Some of them are.
Some of them aren't.
I know. I'm saying some of them are. But yeah, the ones that probably get the most views or whatever are like these cute, tiny, skinny girls who just like stuff their faces with like, they'll eat like an entire pizza and like 7 bowls of noodles in like an hour. It's fucking sickening. I hate it. I hate the trend. I wish it would die off, but it won't because people are fucking weird perverts. I think people get like...
It doesn't...
I think people get weirdly like sexually turned on by that shit.
It doesn't bother me that way. I don't disagree with you.
It bothers me on like
I worry about the eating disorder implications because I've known people with eating disorders. I've struggled with not necessarily eating disorders, but just like weird thoughts on food and diet patterns and other things. And I think if like children are watching those, and I know children and teenagers watch these things, and they see this, they see someone eating like ungodly amounts of food and staying skinny, but there's no like explanation to it, that it can lead to like really bad habits for people that are easily influenced. And also the people doing it, it's like there's no way they don't have like some form of bulimia, or they're just like starving themselves like for days on end before doing one of their sessions. I was gonna
say there's no. I mean, even just all right. We're getting way off topic. Mukbang is not this topic at all. But yes, I agree that like, you know, the skinny girl eating a whole pizza and whatever, like she's definitely vomiting that up right after. There's no way she's not. Okay. But yes, the trend in the 90s, I guess, or it says here in the early 2000s. I guess I remember it in both eras of like, it's like the same, it kind of reminds me of, it's like in the same vein as like, when like supermodels or like really attractive like actresses say, "Oh, I was an outcast in school, like nobody liked me, I was a tomboy and all this shit." It's like, shut the fuck up. I'm sorry, Rebecca Romaine Stamos. Like, there's no way you were a fucking outcast in high school. I don't believe it. And you also are not eating fast food every day. Shut up.
I've met drama kids. They're often outcast in schools, man. I remember.
Okay, if anything, people that are that attractive might possibly not get asked out in high school because people are intimidated by them, but not because they're like, what a fucking nerd. Like, anyway, I always hated that kind of like red carpet banter fucking bullshit. Like, it's just a lie. It's a lie in the way that like mukbang is a lie. Like, and it gives people the wrong idea. But anyway, that's not the point of this article, really. She goes on to say, we don't pretend anymore. She's referring to the pretending that these actresses don't starve themselves. The promotional cycles for blockbuster movies now include detailed descriptions of the performers' fitness regimens. We watch actors doing burpees or shaking ropes with expensive personal trainers. There's some talk of diets, though not terribly detailed, and no mention of steroids or other hormonal supplements, even though male actors suddenly ultra swole selfies on Instagram suggest physiques crafted with chemical assistance.
Well, you already know my opinion on this, that every male actor does steroids, and most female actors, but I haven't talked about that much on the podcast, but I'm certain of it. You
have talked about it. You've talked about it a lot on we've talked about it a lot on the movie commentaries. It comes up a lot. And I probably think on the regular episodes it's come up, which is what, like, this article is kind of the culmination of all of that talk. Actually, that's the way I was taking it.
Me too.
It's like about the shift in I guess the physiques of leading actors in movies is definitely different nowadays. But this writer, she takes it further and talks about how it's, as you said, desexualizing.
Well, there's the desexualizing and also this this new cultural obsession with self as like a culture declines. And one of the only things you can improve is yourself. So a lot of people just start focusing on the self as like, well, my culture's in decline, but I can make myself perfect.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the big, I think, interesting points she makes in this article. Yeah. She writes way further down in the article, but just to your point, she writes, when a nation feels threatened, it gets swole. Germans and Norwegians became obsessed with individual self-improvement through physical fitness around the end of the Napoleonic era. British citizens...
And England did. Sorry.
British citizens took up this physical culture as the 19th century and their empire began to wane. And yoga, in its current practice as a form of meditative strength training, came out of the Indian independence movement of the 20s and 30s. The impetus of these movements isn't fitness for the sake of pleasure, for the pure joys of strength and physical beauty. It's competitive. It's about getting strong enough to fight the enemy, whoever that may be. The United States is, of course, not immune to this. The presidential fitness test sprang up in the mid-20th century after studies found that American children lagged behind Europeans in certain tests of flexibility and calisthenic ability. Cold War paranoia only amped up this anxiety, particularly as we entered the 1980s. What if our kids were too fat to defeat communism? This obsession meshed beautifully with boomer yuppie narcissism and birthed the aerobics fad. There was a huge aerobics boom in the 80s and early 90s.
The number of times my dad put on Richard Simmons is like, son, work out now. You got to fight those communists. You do all those dancing with the oldies moves. And I was like, but Dad, I don't want to dance with the oldies. And he's like, you do it. You're going to beat those Russians. Dad, fine. I'll be this communist slave monster you dream me to be. I didn't become that. I actually just became a communist, but that's a whole nother thing. We never got around to the thesis of this, which is, no one's horny. This is where it's going.
Right. Okay, I'll just continue from where I left off before. Okay. Actors are more physically perfect than ever, impossibly lean, shockingly muscular, with magnificently coiffed hair, high cheekbones, impeccable surgical enhancements, and flawless skin. All displayed in form-fitting superhero costumes, with the obligatory shirtless scene thrown in to show off shredded abs and rippling pecs. And this isn't just the lead and the love interest. Supporting characters look this way too. And even villains, frequently clad in monstrous makeup, are still played by conventionally attractive performers. Even background extras are good-looking, or at least inoffensively bland. No one is ugly. No one is really fat. Everyone is beautiful. And yet, no one is horny. Even when they have sex, no one is horny. No one is attracted to anyone else. No one is hungry for anyone else. When revisiting beloved 80s or 90s film, millennial and Gen X viewers are often startled to encounter long-forgotten sexual content. John Connor's conception in Terminator, Jamie Lee Curtis's toplessness in Trading Places. I've never seen Trading Places. The spectral blowjob in Ghostbusters. That's one of the funniest fucking... If that's a sex scene, that's one of the funniest sex scenes. These scenes didn't shock us when we first saw them. Of course there's sex in a movie. Isn't there always? The answer, of course, is not anymore, at least not when it comes to modern blockbusters. And there's a picture of impossibly veiny, muscular Wolverine. What's his name? Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
He looks like a fake person.
I want to bring something. No, I want to bring something up about that picture. He's really small there because that's a promotional picture from the first X-Men movie. And if you look at him, like, I don't want to say Logan, but the one he did before that, he's way bigger. It's amazing how much bigger he is muscle wise, and only possible because of steroids.
Yeah. I mean, he still looks like horrifically, I would say, defined. Like, it's like that thing where like you don't even drink water, so like you can like have all that like muscular definition, but like you can see every vein in his arm. I mean, I'm sure there's some photoshopping here, but also like to get to that point is more about body fat percentage than it is even is about like bodybuilding. Like you have to get your body fat percentage down to like a ridiculously low level to look that defined. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy that people do this to themselves. It's crazy that I've often wanted to do it to myself because I feel like I need to. I haven't, but I feel like I need to. Like I worked out this morning, and it is good for you to work out, but at the same time, am I working out because it's good for me, or am I working out because I have dreams of being pretty?
I mean, it could be both, but I see your point. I'm just going to continue a little bit here. We are told that Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, that name is so stupid. Maybe I just hate Gwyneth Paltrow. Maybe Potts.
You just hate Stanley.
I just really that every time he says like Pepper, I'm like, what the fuck? You know, it'd be really funny is if she had a doctorate, and then you could call her Dr. Pepper Potts. Haha. When they are an item, but no actual romantic or sexual chemistry between them is shown in the films. Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor utterly lack the sexual chemistry to convince us that either of them would be thirsty enough to commandeer a coma victim's body, as they do in Wonder Woman 1984, so they can enjoy a posthumous hookup. Did you see that one? The second Wonder Woman?
Mm-hmm. It was terrible. I really disliked it.
It's really bad, but I would honestly rewatch that one before I watched the first one, I think. Just because...
I would not.
I found it so ridiculously bad that it was entertaining, but that's my thing, I guess. But
I really dislike it.
No, it's terrible. It's fucking horrible. Awful. Anyway, it is funny though that they just like take a man off the street and like put the spirit of Steve Trevor into him, and she fucks this guy whose body has been hijacked. Like, I don't know. Talk about taking away someone's like autonomy and whatnot. But anyway, in defiance of Norse mythology, Chris Hemsworth's Thor smiles at Natalie Portman like a dumb golden retriever puppy without ever venturing to rend her asunder with his mighty hammer, so to speak. Not that the competition...
Yeah, he's no...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say he's no Ragnar. Sorry, Ragnar was like the lead character in the Vikings TV show that I liked quite a bit. Finally over.
Ragnar, like Ragnarok?
Yeah, like Ragnarok. And then the show after he dies, I'm spoiling a show that I really like, but it's all fair. And you know what? I don't fucking care about spoilers, and you're probably not going to watch it, so I recommend it.
Actually, I've got a question about that then, because we talked about this before, and I told you that I saw there was like a promotional trailer for it on Amazon, and I said there was some sort of flying like dragon-like creature, and you were surprised to hear that because you said there's no like magical shit.
It was a dream.
It's a dream? Okay.
I mean, so there are magical things hinted at, but everything in the show is based in reality, and anything magical in the show also has like a real explanation. Generally,
okay.
It's more of like how different characters and cultures perceive stuff, because a lot of the show is about just like Norse and I guess early British culture and how they clash, and some French stuff. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a fun show. Whatever.
Probably a lot of swole
What
guys.
we're talking about. No, but the Vikings, the Norse guys rape people because that's part of their culture. The women do too.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it really part of Viking culture? Was it? Yes.
no.
Yeah, Raiders did that.
I know it's the shocking part.
sorry.
The shocking part is the fucking thing he said about women raping people. That's not a common thing.
Yeah. I think that happened in an episode. Anywho, Thor.
She goes on after talking about Thor's mighty hammer to say, not that the competition is any better. Despite accusations of being an incel icon, it is Heath Ledger's Joker, not Christian Bale's chaste and sexless Batman, who exudes the most sexual energy in the Dark Knight trilogy. I never thought about it that way, but it's totally true. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess.
I mean, it's not like explicitly sexual, but he's like more like physical or something. I don't know, like swaggering than Batman.
I think this next point's even more concise about Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan is like the most sexless director, I feel like. But and speaking of Christopher,
maybe he ushered in this sexless thing because movies are sexless now, at least blockbusters.
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean,
which is weird.
But again, I would say remember the point she makes early on. She says even when people are having sex, they're not horny. So like there are still sex scenes in movies, but I do feel like they're sort of like there's a sort of emptiness to them that there wasn't before, something like that. But she says, and speaking of Christopher Nolan's inexplicably sexless oeuvre, did anyone else think it odd how Inception enters the deepest level of a rich man's subconscious and finds not a psychosexual Oedipal nightmare of staggering depravity, but a ski patrol? I didn't think about that either, but good point. Inception should have just been like nothing but like nightmarish like sex fantasies.
Just reminiscing about all the times they spent on Epstein's plane. Because that's what rich people do.
Yeah. She goes on to write, let's not pretend that old Hollywood was a progressive haven of body positivity. Since the departure of voluptuous vamp Theda Bara from the silver screen, actors have always gone to extremes to maintain a certain look. Rita Hayworth underwent an ethnic makeover to appear more Caucasian so she could get leading roles. Stars of the 1920s limited their fluid consumption to 2 glasses a day to avoid water weight. Jane Fonda suffered from severe bulimia at the height of her sex symbol status. So did Marlon Brando. But old films still featured recognizable human bodies and human faces. Bodies that could theoretically be achieved by a single person without the aid of a team of personal trainers, dietitians, private chefs, and chemists.
This is something I really started to notice when I was living with my old roommate Colin, because we like went through this like period where we were watching. She's actually going to bring it up, but all the Kurt Russell movies from the 80s and 90s, and we were also just watching just a lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s, and like looking at the men in those movies, they're all so small, but they're not small. They're like in really good shape. But they're so small compared to now. But,
like, I mean, I think she's going to go on to say it here, but, like, he doesn't have, like, defined abs and, like, super
strong,
muscular arms.
You look at him, but he is. Like, he's, in those movies, he's in better shape than I have been in my entire life. And I've been in good shape at different points in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. It's all relative. Yeah, I mean, this is something we've talked about a lot, I feel like. Maybe more just on the movie commentaries. But I was going to bring up, though, like, because this is like she sort of is like idealizing the 80s and 90s here as like a time when, I don't know, a more perfectly horny time. But I was thinking of like all the old like noir movies I've been watching, and like Humphrey Bogart is like still considered like the the greatest movie star of all time by a lot of people, I guess. Maybe just kind of like film historians, but still, like, you know, old bogey, right? Like he was the guy. He is like so narrow shouldered and scrawny, like but he was like a total sex symbol. He was like short,
commanding
as well.
presence.
Yeah, I mean
Commanding presence, confidence.
That's what a lot of it was. Like his way of delivering lines is just so like I don't know, magnetic or something. Because when I watch those movies, I'm like, that's the cool guy in the room. But I kept noticing, like, just like when he's like getting the girl or whatever in whatever movies, she's like got like, I don't know, some height on him usually, and I don't know. Next time you see Humphrey Bogart, Jason, and everyone listening, notice how goddamn narrow his shoulders are.
I've noticed before.
Okay.
I've thought about this too. I was watching a lot of noir movies at some point, not very recently, but in the past like decade. Decade seems recently to me. Now I'm getting into my mumblecore bit here. Yeah, no, it is interesting how like leading actors have changed. But I think what she's getting to, and I actually feel this way too. I think there was like a very drastic shift after like maybe 2008, 2009 of just like this like hardcore like perfection of the human body in like weird ways. Perfection used like loosely there.
Well,
but like,
where it had to be everyone, like not just even like because I guess in the 80s and 90s there were like you had like your Schwarzeneggers, your action stars. They were like absurdly defined and muscular or whatever, but that was like their thing. Like they that's what separated them from everybody else. But now her point is that everyone has to be
Arnold.
I mean, yeah, basically. But also I think like the broader point of how like what this says about American culture, like at the moment, about how like cultures in decline or like empires in decline tend to turn towards this like hyperactive like exercise regime and like individual inward focus.
Yeah, she makes a really good point of it like later in the writing where she is like right after she talks about like McMansions, I think.
Yeah, that's a part I like as well. It's coming up soon here. Well, let's just push on a bit. In the films of the 80s and 90s, leading actors were good looking, yes, but still human. Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken was a hunk, but in shirtless scenes, his abs have no definition. Bruce Willis was handsome, but he's more muscular now. He's like gotta be like 70 years old or something now.
Sylvester Stallone is more muscular now than he was in Rocky 3.
Yeah, because he's like injecting like fucking, I don't know, like horse
steroids. He does steroids, man. If I have access to them when I'm his age, I will do it too because it's pretty much proven it'll make you healthier.
I thought
at least feel healthier.
I thought the trend was moving towards just injecting pure HGH, human growth hormone.
You do both.
Okay.
There is that too. It's all just fucking steroids. But yes, you're right. There is a lot of human growth hormone too.
I wanted to make a joke about like he's injecting like horse semen into his head or something, but the moment is gone. And the joke sucks. Yeah, Bruce Willis is more muscular now than he was in the 90s when he was routinely branded a bona fide sex symbol. And when Isabella Rossellini I thought this was a weird weird example, but I mean, it makes sense. It's just, anyway, when Isabella Rossellini strips in Blue Velvet, her skin is pale and her body is soft. She looks vulnerable and real. Yeah, it's true. And that's like a horrifying scene. There's nothing like horny or sexy about it, but anyway. And yet, these characters fucked. Blue Velvet's Dorothy Valens and Jeffrey Beaumont fucked. Michael Keaton's Batman and Michelle Pfeiffer's Dom Catwoman fucked. Well, Not really, not technically, but I get what she's saying. Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor fucked. Snake Plissken didn't fuck on screen, but the character radiates overwhelming sex-haver energy. And I defy you to find a mainstream film with a moment as horny and gay as the sexy saxophone solo from The Lost Boys. I've never seen The Lost Boys. Have you?
I like it.
Maybe I shouldn't even ask what the scene is about. I should just watch it because it sounds sort of bizarre from what I know about the movie. But
It's basically as she describes it.
I just wonder how it plays. Isn't that movie about like vampires?
Mm-hmm. Vampires coming back to town, baby. Boys are back in town.
Here's another good example she cites here is in Poltergeist. She says, "Seen today, one of the most striking scenes in 1982's Poltergeist." Another movie I haven't seen somehow, is not the evil clown doll or the monster tree, but a moment of relaxed affection between the parents. The father, a bald, beer-bellied Craig T. Nelson, cracks jokes and prances for his wife, who wears a frumpy nightgown and smokes a joint and yammers weed thoughts and laughs at her husband's silly display. That sounds nice. Finally, the husband playfully dives onto the bed. Neither character is glamorous in this scene, but their relationship feels frisky and lived in and charismatic and real. The house looks real too. There are toys and magazines scattered around the floor. There are cardboard boxes waiting to be unpacked since the recent move. Framed pictures rest against the wall. The parents haven't gotten around to mounting them yet. The kitchen counters are cluttered and mealtimes are rambunctious and sloppy as one expects in a house with 3 children. They're building a pool in the backyard, but not for appearances. It's a place for the kids to swim, for the parents to throw parties, and for the father to reacquaint himself with his love of diving. At the time, this house represented an aspirational ideal of American affluence. Here we get into the architecture argument, which I think is interesting. Compare this to homes and films now. Massive, sterile, cavernous spaces with minimalist furniture. Kitchens are industrial-sized and spotless, and they contain no food. There's no excess. There's no mess. In her blog, McMansion Hell, Kate Wagner examines precisely why these widely hated 5,000 square foot housing bubble behemoths are so awful. Over and over again, it reiterates the point that McMansions are not built to be homes. They're built to be short-term investments, which is an interesting way to think about the way people are like viewing their own bodies. Yeah. It's like, it's an investment. And like, it is literally an investment for the film studio when we're talking about actors. Kate writes, the inside of McMansions are designed in order to cram the most features inside for the lowest costs. These features exist to increase the house's resale value, not to make it a good place to live. No thought is given to the labor needed to clean and maintain these spaces. The master bathroom includes intricate stone surfaces that can only be scrubbed with a toothbrush. The cathedral ceilings in the living room raise the heating and cooling costs to an exorbitant sum. The chandelier in the grand entryway dangles so high that no one can replace the bulbs in it, even with a stepladder. Oh, that was her talking. Sorry, the quote was just the first sentence of that.
It was just the first one.
Raquel goes on to say, the same fate has befallen our bodies. A body is no longer a holistic system. It is not the vehicle through which we experience joy and pleasure during our brief time in the land of the living. It is not a home to live in and be happy. It, too, is a collection of features. Six-pack, thigh gap, cum gutters. I hate that word. I hate that word so much. Oh, God. It's just...
or gutters.
Both, like, together. I wish I didn't know what it was, actually, but I do. Cum gutters. And these features exist not to make our lives more comfortable, but to increase the value of our assets. Our bodies are investments, which must always be optimized to bring us... what exactly? Some vague sense of better living? Is a life without bread objectively better than a life with it? When we were children, did we dream of counting every calorie and logging every step?
Man, something I want to bring up, and I think it's a this generation thing. This generation. But like, In my classes recently, and some in the past, I've been doing a unit on like wishes and what they would wish for in the future. And the number of kids who wish to be tall, and I'm asking their reasons, it's just like insane to me. It's always like, it's not even a wish I would even think about when I was a kid. Like I didn't wish to be tall. But I think it's became really common, and it's usually just like, oh, you're more likely to be rich, you're more likely to be attractive, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, man, why are you thinking about this? You're like 9. Why do you care?
Yeah, that is a little weird.
I'm going to this. It's so common. It's like one of the most common wishes from like the students I teach.
I would also be like, be careful what you wish for, because people that are like overly tall and like, you know, then you become like gangly, which is like,
yeah, but I mean, not compare. I am going to compare my kids to incels real quick, but you also see it online with like incel communities where so many of the incels are like, I'm just not tall enough to attract a girl.
it's because those fuckers, those fuckers will reach.
I'm not tall, but I've dated a lot of people.
Those fuckers will reach
No
for,
problem.
and yeah, sure, exactly. I mean, you're not short either, but like,
I guess I'm average in more ways than one.
do you want to elaborate on that? We could just
Average intelligence, average body, average height, average dick size, you know, average, just average all around.
okay.
Above average appetite.
Oh, the incel thing though, like, I mean, I feel like it goes without saying almost, but like they reach for any fucking excuse, you know, no matter how ridiculous. And of course, I'm sure one of them is like, I'm not tall enough or whatever.
It's just like a constant reframe that I see online and even offline about how if you're not a certain way, you will not get liked on Tinder. I don't know. It's weird for me to think about.
I mean,
because I'm removed
granted,
from it.
like, yeah, dating, a lot of, especially online dating, does have to do with like, sort of initial like photogenic attractiveness, but most incels are like not like hideously deformed or something either. I don't think, like, they just have fucked up personalities, but they don't ever consider that that's the reason they don't have a girlfriend or whatever. It's always like
until they read Jordan Peterson and fix themselves.
yeah, I cleaned my room, Jordan. Why didn't I get laid magically yet? It's like, because you're a fucking awful person. You have no like
You still
social
haven't
skills.
followed all 8 steps. But yeah, no, I mean,
12 steps.
yes.
12 rules for being a stupid lobster person.
I guess what I mean though with this, like, there is so much perfection in media right now. I can see how younger people, be that internet incels, which I don't think that's a large group, or children, how they get so wrapped up in like thinking they have to be that way, which is sad.
It is sad. But anyway, I feel like we could get like totally lost in like down the incel road. And we probably got to get hurrying up here.
Probably.
She goes on to say how like a generation or two ago, people played sports like purely for the like enjoyment. The ultimate goal was pleasure. Now sports seem to be more so about commodifying and also just as sculpting your body in this detached, unhorny way that she's been talking about the whole time. And she talks about how
so real quick on this, just one note. I really enjoy cycling and running, and the number of people who've told me, why don't you just go lift weights? It's so much better for like, you know, sculpting your body. It's like, I actually like running and cycling, not doing it to look like a fucking superhero. I've been annoyed before by people telling me that I should just go lift weights because it's better. I don't fucking care.
But that's anaerobic exercise. You need aerobic exercise like cycling and running. It's better for you.
And they're fun. For me. They're fun for me.
I'm saying even on the level of health and fitness and stuff, you could shoot back on that. Like anyway, yeah. I mean, I guess if you do like lift weights or whatever, like the more muscle you have, like the easier it is to like burn fat and stuff. But But like you said, you enjoy those activities like as an end in themselves. I'm just going to kind of like summarize some of this as we go down here. She also goes on to talk about how even gyms have like a different sort of like a flavor to them now than they did, say, even like 30 years ago. That she talks about how there used to be like this sort of communal feeling to gyms, which I mean, I can't testify to that because I wasn't, I was a young child in the 80s, but
my only testifying to that is like I've seen the documentary Pumping Iron.
I'm coming at the gym. I'm coming at the... I haven't seen it, but I know that part is in it. That's all I know about it.
Yeah.
And doesn't he smoke like a giant blunt in that movie or something?
Sure.
I think he smokes weed in that movie.
He does.
Schwarzenegger, that is. Yeah, I mean, I would say based on just like movies from the 80s, that's the way that gyms were depicted, was like everyone is kind of like having a good time together. But now you see like
getting slow together. You
see gyms now, and it seems to be much more like isolated, like self-focused, I guess.
Everyone is perfectly encapsulated behind the safety of their AirPods.
Right, yeah, I guess. And I mean, this is not also to say that like people were just like better people back then, because of course they had all their problems. And like, I don't want to idealize the 80s and 90s too much. I think there's almost, if there's any criticism I might have about this essay, is that she gets kind of close to like over idealizing that era in a way. But it's also like it fits her purpose as well. So, this is a good line though here. So this is her talking about gyms. She says there's no promise of intimacy, like doing fitness like in the way that it's done today. Like our heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Rico and Dizzy and all the other infantry and Starship Troopers, we are horny only for annihilation. A lesser discussed side effect of extreme calorie restriction is the loss of libido. Bodybuilders experience this as they go on crash diets to quickly cut fat so that their muscles will show during competitions. Although they look like physically perfect specimens of manhood, they don't dream of women, but of cheeseburgers and fries. Many eating disorder patients lose their sex drive completely and even stop menstruating. When a body receives fewer calories, it must prioritize essential life support systems over any function not strictly necessary for the body's immediate survival. Sexual desire falls into the latter category, as does high-level abstract thought. A body that restricts food and increases exercise believes it is undergoing a famine, which is not an ideal time to reproduce. Is there anything more cruelly puritanical than enshrining a sexual ideal that leaves a person unable to enjoy sex? That is kind of weird. And then she goes into the thing I already read about nations in decline turning to becoming obsessed with individual self-improvement through physical fitness.
Yeah, the whole thing I was saying about you can't improve your culture, but you can improve yourself.
Right. And then to bring us sort of full circle back to the beginning of the episode, talking about George Bush and 9/11. I'll just summarize here. She talks about how in 1998, the body mass index standards shifted down. So formerly one needed a BMI of 27 for women, 28 for men to be classified as overweight, but the new standard lowered the cutoff to 25. So 29 million Americans instantly became overweight without gaining an ounce.
Something that really bugged me in Korea, I think it's 22 here.
Yeah,
which is insanely low.
I remember my first year here. One of my coworkers was this like very like jacked, swole, like younger guy, and I remember him like he was also kind of dumb, I gotta say. But like I remember because he was like upset that his doctor told him he was obese. And
Yeah, I've actually had another really.
he literally
I knew a jacked guy here that had the same.
he
thing.
literally
Like,
had like a
geez.
fucking like six pack and all of that shit. I was like, dude, don't worry. The standards here are just way different. You're doing fine, man.
Also, that doctor, I think, was doing a poor job if he just based obesity on a weight. Like most doctors here and in America, they know that it's more to do with actual body fat
Well,
percentage.
you gotta like measure people and shit. You can't just weigh them.
Yeah. I mean, BMI, which is where you just like compare weight height chart, the one
Yeah.
is like way inaccurate for most people. I mean, it's like, I think it's like 20%, like there's like a 20% scale on its accuracy, 20, which is a good way to ballpark maybe at home, but it's going to be so like, it's just not going to work if you work out like a ton or all kinds of factors. Yeah.
Even if you didn't measure like the circumference of your arms and legs, if you just did your abdomen, that would make all the difference. Like if the doctor had done that for this like extremely fit person, yeah, it would have like not. Anyway, let's see.
I did not know.
So it said there was a nationwide panic because of this. Like people
I remember
this
that.
is when we started seeing like on the nightly news. She describes it here as
The obesity epidemic.
Stock footage of fat people ambling about in public, filmed from the neck down to protect their identities and to more effectively dehumanize them. Yes, the horrors of the obesity epidemic, and
there are problems with it. I think that my understanding is the Americans' diets have gotten a lot better in the past few years. But where am I going with this? It was a real medical issue, but it was also just like something to like make people panic and go out and buy diet books.
right. Yeah, I agree. But it's also a class issue, I think, because I mean, just think about it. Like if you're poor, you're gonna like you can for like $2 or $3 you could like have what could be considered a meal at like a fast food restaurant, you know, hit up that dollar menu, right? Or you buy just like really cheap, like sort of microwavable groceries or whatever.
I mean, I've known a lot of poor people from my area. You buy a lot of hamburger helper.
Yeah.
Tuna helper.
Also, if you're working like 2 or 3 jobs and maybe raising kids on top of it, like you're not gonna. First of all, you can't afford to join a gym most likely, and you wouldn't have any time to do it to go to that gym anyway, even if you could. I mean, then you know, some like naysayers might be like, well, you know, actually, produce. If you go to like the farmer's market, produce is cheaper than, you know, like I'm just thinking of like really oblivious, like sort of.
You're right about those obnoxious people.
Yeah.
But I just want to say this. If you're in the States and you're struggling with money, I'm going to make a very controversial point here. Your food stamps, I know this from when I was using food stamps, will go the farthest usually at Walmart. You cannot beat their prices. Sure, they're evil, terrible. You probably shouldn't shop at it if you don't have to. But if you're hungry and you want to get the best bang for your buck, even for like healthy produce, Walmart's probably your best bet. I will stand by that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Though, if you're unlucky, you know, say you live in like Carter's Valley and you don't have a car, and there's $2 Generals near you, but otherwise it's a food desert. Good luck with actually getting fresh produce. You buy your boxes of hamburger helper and your cans of tuna, and you're like, well, it'd be nice to have hamburger with this, but I guess I'll put tuna in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you're in like certain urban settings as well, like I feel like I could be wrong, but Walmarts and like those kind of really these mega stores, they're not like placed inside like.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Big cities. Like
no,
actually
right.
Walmarts are like all over like the like rural areas. Like I remember my brother lived like further down south in Illinois when he went to college, and he told me people would literally go hang out at the Walmart because that was the only thing in the area. There was like,
dude, I did that.
I
used to go
so depressing.
hang out at the Walmart. It was just something to do, man.
I know, but it's depressing.
I know. I also know that. But you see, that's like urban rural areas. The truly like rural areas don't have a Walmart, or if they did, it's closed down now and it's been replaced by a Dollar General.
Okay.
Which is a very evil company. Worth reading about. So evil.
I think we have touched on it a little bit in the past, but maybe we should.
Yeah, let's finish up this.
Well, yeah. So she describes like this first sort of like turn in the late 90s as the BMI standards changing and everyone freaking out about an obesity epidemic. Then she says the second event was, of course, 9/11. The attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon sparked a new war on terror, and America needed to get in shape so we could win that war. The USA's hyper-militaristic, troop-worshipping post-9/11 culture seeped into the panic over obesity and gave birth to a terrifying swole baby. Public school gym classes featured special military fitness days in which students practiced throwing mock grenades. George W. Bush added an adult fitness challenge to the presidential fitness program. On American and British television, a new wave of documentaries and reality shows sprang up to bellow at us for being too fat to defeat Al-Qaeda. Honey, we're killing the kids. Supersize me. You are what you eat. Wait, is that really a show, Honey, we're killing the kids?
No. Is it? Oh, maybe it is.
Think it's,
yeah,
because Supersize Me is real.
Yeah, no, it is. I remember hearing about it. I just never watched it.
In which a bony harridan screeched at Britons whose feces did not meet her exacting standards. The Biggest Loser, where lean coaches bellowed at fat contestants in a manner strikingly similar to that of a stereotypical drill instructor. I remember really, like, when I discovered that was a show, just really hating America, seeing that on TV. Although I guess England is no better.
I mean, say what you will about the dumb Korean reality TV shows, but I like them way more than that American-style competition reality TV show garbage.
Yeah, they seem to be much more light.
You're just people goofing off.
Yeah, people
usually.
Just being silly, basically. Doing like wholesome pranks to each other.
Yeah. It's still not for me. I just never really cared about reality TV. I'm sure you haven't that much either.
No, I mean, maybe I told you sometimes I watch certain shows just to like, because
you like the ones where they make stuff, right? Like sword making and glass.
I have only watched I've watched like one episode
Underground Bunkers.
Of the Underground Bunkers show. That was all research for the podcast. But okay, this is almost the end here. She says, so she goes on to talk about like
I can summarize the rest of this up until the very end.
Okay, go ahead.
She basically goes on to talk about how after how in the 80s, she goes back to the 80s. She gets back to the 80s and she talks about how there were the sexy stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jean-Claude Van Damme showing off their bodies. But for the most part these days, we just have a bunch of never nudes in all the Marvel Cinematic Hero movies. Yada, yada. And
she's saying there's like,
it seems to be the perfect bodies exist only for inflicting violence upon others.
There's no eroticism. She's saying like the 80s stars like had like an erotic quality to it, even if there was like violence and stuff.
And she gets to this part, which I do like, where she talks about maybe we're too anxious about the apocalypse. I am. Maybe we're too broke to go out. Maybe having to live with roommates or parents make it a little awkward to bring a partner home. You know, maybe there are chemicals in the environment screwing up our hormones. Maybe we don't know how to navigate human sexuality outside of rape culture. Maybe being raised on the message that our bodies are a nation-ending menace has dampened our enthusiasm for physical pleasure. And then she says, eating disorders have steadily increased, though, which makes perfect sense to me when you see how perfect, like, actors are right now. We are still getting our bodies ready to fight the enemy, and since we are at war with an abstract concept, the enemy is invisible and ethereal. To defeat it, our bodies must lose solidity as well.
She cites...
What's our last hope?
She cites, though, just before that, she's talking about how millennials and Zoomers are like, it's been like documented over and over again, are just far less sexually active than previous generations. And so that's what she's referring to, like the anxiety about the apocalypse and all the possible reasons people are having less sex. But yeah, she ends on a note of hope in the form of one Robbie Pattinson.
He gives me hope too, to be honest.
He's great.
As far as like young leading male actors go, I think he's my favorite at the moment.
Yeah.
Ever since he was in that movie where he was a vampire.
I would agree with.
He played baseball.
I think like as soon as he started doing A24 movies, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. She says, but there's hope. Robert Pattinson is playing the next Batman in a film set to release in 2022. He has proudly bragged about his refusal to bulk up for the role, despite an outcry from superhero movie fans. These fucking nerds need to fuck off and die forever. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
See, I think it's great that he's not buffing up. I'm sure he'll be in great shape.
I've seen the trailer, and you can tell like he is like far sort of scrawnier than, say, Christian Bale.
Good. I'm fine with that.
Like it's even
it gives more authenticity.
It's evident even in the suit. In a 2019 interview with Variety, Pattinson said, "In the last 3 or 4 movies, I've got a masturbation scene. I did it in High Life, I did it in Damsel, and in The Devil All the Time. I only realized when I did it the 4th time in The Lighthouse." That's kind of funny. And then
I can't wait for Batman to masturbate on screen
to a picture of his dead parents. Jesus.
That's too much.
Did I cross a line?
No, I just realized that Batman has Alfred for whenever he needs to masturbate. Batman never has to touch his own orifices. That's what butlers are for. That's why they call them butlers.
After the thing about masturbation, Raquel S. Benedict writes one last sentence. Perhaps he will be the hero we need. And that's the article, folks. Yeah, I like this article. I think it's draws some like connections between certain things that I hadn't really thought about before, I guess. I mean, I definitely we had talked about this trend of how like just how different actors look compared to, I don't know, in our childhoods in the 90s. We noticed it in Waterworld. We noticed it in something else. Jurassic Park, the first one. But yeah, drawing the connections between like these larger socio-political and cultural trends, I think is pretty interesting. And I buy what she's saying. It makes sense to me. I really like the point about McMansions as well. Even without connecting it to the body. I mean, although that also makes sense to me, but just the whole idea of like, I don't know, things designed to be like sterile and like impractical. And that's like, that's the status symbol is like, things that suck, basically, like McMansions fucking suck. I kind of want to check out that person's blog, McMansion Hell. I don't know. Any final thoughts about the article or anything else we talked about today?
I think we should be horny again. I'm going to work on being horny again, and I hope everyone else can work on being horny again. I know it's hard.
Make America horny again. Maha.
Yeah, exactly.
Maha.
That's all I have.
Get horny, everybody.
You want to do recommendations?
Yeah. Do you got one in mind?
I'm going to recommend Blood Knife Magazine. It's good. A lot of cool articles about films. You can go to their website, bloodknife.com. They even talk about capitalism sometimes. We've just read a long article from it.
All right. Okay, I'm going to recommend a book. A book that I just found out yesterday has been adapted into a movie, and it shocked me because I never thought this book would be turned into a movie. The book is called A Naked Singularity. It's like this, 900-page, Infinite Jest sized, Gravity's Rainbow sized book. It was self-published by, initially self-published back in 2008 by Sergio de la Pava. I think that's how you say his name. I've never said it out loud.
That sounds right. I've heard of this book. I never read it.
It's a good book. I read it a while ago, probably like 2012. When it was published, like properly published and got like some decent, attention. They describe and it's been made into a movie starring John Boyega and Olivia Cook and Bill Skarsgård. And I started watching it last night, but I didn't finish it. But that's just because I drank too much. But what I remember watching of it last night was actually pretty good. I mean, they definitely cut out a lot of stuff from the novel since it's 900 pages, but they seem to stick to the basic plot. But yeah, I'll recommend the book. I can't really recommend the movie since I haven't finished it yet, but maybe even check out the movie. But yeah, it's a long book. It's good. It's about like a public defender, and he kind of gets caught up in like a criminal scheme. But it also has like a very sort of like, the postmodern whatever trappings, like long sort of philosophical discussions between characters and things like that. But I liked it enough to recommend it. So that's that.
So you can find us at heatdeathpod.com. We also have a Patreon now if you want to check it out. We're on Patreon. You can support us. We do spend money on this. If you want to support us, you don't have to. You can listen to us. Our content will always be free, I think.
Well, I'll quickly elaborate on that. The movie commentaries going forward, which haven't been made yet, will be behind the paywall. But the ones that we've done up until episode 100 will still be free. But so the only bonus content will be the movie commentaries, which in the last year, I think we've done about like 20 something of them at least. So right. We'll probably do just about as many, if not more, in the following year. That's if civilization still exists for another year. But yeah, and there are 2 physical things you can get from the Patreon. Like the second tier, you can get this coffee mug that has a picture of Mayor Pete, quote unquote, solving the trolley problem. And then the highest tier, you can get an official Heat Death of the Universe t-shirt. But yeah. Like our only goal at this point is to break even. So if you like the podcast and have any extra money you feel like helping out, that would be cool. I'm still feeling very awkward about this whole thing. That's why I'm probably sounding awkward right now. But that's that. Jason, you gotta head to the teaching minds, right?
I do.
Godspeed, sir.
Have to go ride my bicycle to work and teach things. Teach things to things. Ow! Sorry.
And
I should really learn how to sit with my feet on the floor. I always like put my legs in real awkward positions because I can't fucking sit with my feet on the
and
floor.
on that note,
Then, yeah.
See
goodbye. See you later.
See you, Jason.
And the first one tore a picture of a dead and hanging man who was kissing foreign fishes that flew right out from his hand. And when I put my arms around it, felt the blushing blood run through my cheeks and an airiness around it. When his tongue began to speak and he said, "Oh boy, you are so pretty, enough to wrap tied in rice paper string." And when I finally kissed him, the whole world began to ring, lost like a bell that's tipping over with two cracks along both sides. And I knew the world was over, so I took a look outside and watched the fires that were reaching up to the weather vane and the tops of trees and the waiting scene in the Sunday dream. They're all waiting here for me. Deli Marcus with their flower stands, they're pretty girls and they're burning men hanging out on the hooks next to the window display. And I took out my tongue, twice removed from my face, across the bridge and across the mountains, threw a nickel in the fountain, saved my soul from all these troubled times and all the drugs that I don't have the guts to take to soothe my mind. I'm always sober, always aching, always heading toward mass suicide. I call figurines and wasted gas station attendants attending to their job. And a nice drive in the country, but a nice clip to drop off. Oh, and this life just gets so great, all prettiness of life. But don't take those pills your boyfriend gave you, you're too wonderful to die. Picture from the pornographic page, but all the pleasure points attacking all the looks of love were staged. And it's a lie that you've been given that just hurts you every day. So why should I lay here naked when it's just too far away from anything we could call love, any love worth living for? So I'll sleep out in the gutter, you can sleep here on the floor. And when I wake up in the morning, I won't forget to lock the door. 'Cause with a match that's mean and some gasoline, you won't see me
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?